Hey everybody, so we are back with another look at what hopefully will be a future stretch goal. And this one is called the Bounty Hunter Supplement. Now, normally in Journey to the Overland, you have jobs and you have skills. And typically with jobs, you're going to just go into a town or a location and you will quote work a job, but really all you're going to do when you work a job is you're going to allocate so much of your time in the game while you're working the job. Now later in the game it may have some benefit that you worked a job, uh, but for the most part, if you work a job for a week, for example, you just mark off a week, after you do your weather and things like that. So they're kind of separate. Skills, on the other hand, are things that you will acquire that kind of make your character more proficient. Ranger skills, fighter skills, thief skills, so forth. They're not necessarily jobs. So, for example, a ranger would not go into a town to be paid to be a ranger. I mean, your ranger is your skill. What the bounty hunter skill is, however, is kind of a mix of both, because the bounty hunter skill is actually a skill and a job. So if you get the bounty hunter supplement and you choose to try to become a bounty hunter, you can then go into a town and look for work, which of course are these bounties. And so that's what we're going to take a look at today, is kind of this cool mix between a job and a skill. Let's start out here. The Journey to the Overland Bounty Hunter Supplement is an expansion module for the Journey to the Overland solo tabletop role-playing game. It is designed to allow players to take on the role of bounty hunters in the world of Overland, as they try and track down the Overland's most wanted fugitives. In addition to the 33 new NPC characters introduced into the Bounty Hunter Supplement, characters with enough experience points can also purchase the new Bounty Hunter Advanced skill. Right? And so we begin with your object of the game, which is basically, you says you want to track down wanted fugitives. We move to your setup. And so this is going to explain how you would set up the cards, because as we read earlier, that you get 33 new NPC cards in the game, but you don't mix them into, well, I don't know, do you mix them into the deck? Let me see. To incorporate the Bounty Hunter supplement into your normal game, shuffle the Bounty Hunter cards and place them to the side. So no, you're not going to mix them in. As a daily action, you may draw a Bounty Hunter card if you are in a town or castle. So first of all, you have to be in a town or castle, and then instead of doing like an action like seeking an audience or news and information, you can draw a Bounty Hunter card. After drawing the card, check to see if the fugitive is wanted in the town or castle you are in. So you might see if they're wanted there, because each card will indicate where they're wanted. And we'll look at the cards after this. If so, you may keep the card to locate the fugitive and capture them and return them for the bounty. If you pull a card but the bounty is not being offered by the town or castle you are in, return the card to the bottom of the deck, and that concludes your daily action. So in this one, if you are looking for somebody, but say they're wanted in Future Town and you're in Milestone, you have to put the card back. Now, that is what I think regular characters do. Bounty hunters with the bounty hunter skill, you will see treated a little differently. It says working a bounty. Once a player obtains a bounty, they have 2 weeks to work that bounty. If the player has not captured the fugitive before those 2 weeks are up, the bounty has been lost and the card must be returned to the bounty card deck. Now this again goes back to the previous one, where if you're in a town and the bounty is not being offered by that town, you put it back. But if it is being offered, then you can move here to working the bounty, which means only because the town is offering the bounty does not mean that that person is in that town. You now have to go find them. And so we're going to look at that. A player may only work one bounty at a time and may only have one bounty card at any given time. Once a character obtains a bounty, instead of a normal daily action, they may choose to, quote, work a bounty. So that becomes your daily action, as you're working a bounty. When this is done, the character may search for his or her bounty at one of the locations where they were sighted. And the card will tell you where they were sighted. When a character chooses to work a bounty as a daily action, they may not choose any other daily action, whether or not they locate the fugitive. So that's self-explanatory. So then we're going to move to where it says locating fugitives. Once you obtain a bounty, you're going to look for this thing called where they were last seen at. You then have to travel to that town or location. You're going to roll a percentile dice, which is called do a search. And the card will tell you if the search is successful. Each one will be different, because some will be easier to locate than others, depending on how good they are at hiding. And then it says here, you do not have to choose work a bounty daily action the very next day to obtain other sightings of a fugitive you have already attempted to locate. You may do so as long as you have the bounty. So that means you could do different daily actions, and then if he's not in that town, you could do something else, and then do your other sighting another day. But doing a sighting is working a bounty, so that would be your daily action. But you don't have to do your sighting in a row, while you're working it. Okay, so then it talks about searching at the last location. So here's an example. Let's see. Jarl has obtained a bounty for Boris LeMay. He travels to Milestone and chooses a work a bounty daily action in order to search for him. He rolls percentile dice and rolls a 63%. Since Boris's search percentage is 60%, he has not rolled less than or equal to that and has not located Boris. His daily action ends. The next day he decides to take up the pursuit right away instead of waiting and chooses a work a bounty daily action again. This time he rolls 1d10 for another sighting and gets a 5. Checking Boris's bounty card, he sees that Boris has been located in Zafton. He can now travel there and search for him again when he arrives. So that kind of explains the process of this character, Jarl, who's now in the process of working this bounty. Alright, and then so eventually you're going to want to capture fugitives. So this basically says once you locate them, if you defeat and do not kill them, you need rope, and I'm kind of going through this, a horse or wagon, if they escape. And then you have here, instead of attacking a fugitive that you have located, you may roll on the fugitive reaction table to see if they will come along peacefully. So this is a table that supplements the NPC reaction table. Says, but however, if you choose to roll on the table, you must apply the result and cannot attack instead. So either you find them and attack immediately, or you roll on this table and deal with whatever happens from talking to them. Like, hey, are you going to come in peacefully? So you see that in the movies all the time, which never works out. But I don't know, maybe the table is a little more forgiving. Alright, so it says, once you capture a fugitive, the 2-week limit you have to work a bounty no longer applies, even though you could still lose the bounty. So this is good because you only have 2 weeks to capture them. Not locate them, not find them, but for them to officially be captured, whether they turn themselves in or whether you take them down. But once you do that, the 2 weeks stops, and that's important because anybody that plays the game knows you can lose a lot of time traveling. The weather can slow you down. So it's nice to know if you do capture your bounty within that 2 weeks, you can still get paid for them, even though it might take you longer to get them back to the town where he or she is wanted. So it talks here about returning the fugitive, dead or alive, tied them up, any wounds they received in the combat. If you get into combat while you are returning, it says they may escape. So that's where it says they could escape. If the fugitive surrenders peacefully, you must feed them. The fugitive surrenders peacefully. This does not mean they will aid you in combat. You cannot obtain any other. So these are kind of now some ground rules as far as once you have them in your custody and you're heading back with them, it kind of governs how play has to go. And it talks about collecting your bounty, which this is basically, I just assume you bring them back to the town. It says if a fugitive is brought to a location alive where they are only wanted dead, there is a % chance equal to the fugitive search score that you will encounter the constable who will demand that you turn the fugitive over. Wow. If you do not, they will attack. If the constables take the fugitive, you will not be paid any bounty. So basically, if you bring back somebody alive who's wanted dead, the constables may simply say, well, he's ours now, and you lose your bounty. So that's kind of a tough call for individuals that, Maybe you don't want to kill the guy. Maybe there's something in his card. Because some of them do have things in their card where it's like, well, if you bring me back alive, I'll surrender. You know, and in exchange, I'll do this for you. And so you might do that, then bring him back alive. But then the constables might take him off your hands. And of course, they're going to go back there, and by the time they turn him in, it's going to be that he was brought back dead. Says if a fugitive is brought to a location where they are wanted dead or alive, you will only be paid the alive bounty regardless of when you turn them in. So obviously, you know, if they're dead or alive, they're not going to pay you the price for them coming in dead if you bring them in alive. And then it says here, if you're traveling, you wish to stop at a town or castle where they are wanted, but do not want to turn them in. Alright, so it says, say for example, they're wanted alive in one place, but you're trying to take them to somewhere else where they're wanted dead, and you stop at this place where they're wanted alive. It says, unless they are wanted dead at that location, you do not have to turn them in and may perform daily actions as normal. So basically, you can stop at these places where they are wanted alive and get supplies, but not turn them in there. Instead, say you're taking them somewhere where they're wanted dead. Now, again, if they are wanted dead and you stop at one of these locations, you go back here where you have this chance of meeting the constables. So that's a very significant distinction. And again, there are things in some of these fugitive cards where some of these are powerful people, some of these are wanted for political reasons. So there are certain things where if you are traveling with them and maybe you're trying to help them prove they're innocent before you turn them in, you don't want to stop at a town where they're wanted dead. You can stop at a town where they're wanted alive, but you don't want to stop at a town where they're wanted dead. This is the fugitive reaction table, and so I'm not going to spoil this for you guys, but you know, it's kind of pretty much standard. Looks like the higher you roll. And then we get to the bounty hunter skill, which I like. So in order to buy the skill, there's 25,000 XPs, and this is explained in the game if you're not familiar with how you use your XPs and experience points. Basically, so many experience points gives you so many XPs to spend, which is XPS. So this you would need 25,000. Says it's an advanced skill. Talks about prerequisites like barbarians or some other skill. You get an ability that you can increase. Alright, so then this is the difference. When drawing a bounty card, a bounty hunter may keep any card he draws whether or not there is a bounty for that fugitive in the town or castle. So unlike regular players who can do bounties, remember that you do not need bounty hunter skill to work a bounty. But a bounty hunter, when he draws a card in a town, even if that card says this guy is wanted in Zafton, and this bounty hunter draws the card in Milesteel, he can still work that bounty. A regular player cannot. A regular player has to put it back, because if you are in Milesteel, you can only work a bounty for somebody that is wanted in Milesteel. Otherwise, you have to travel to Zafton or travel to another town and get a bounty where somebody's wanted in that town. And it says, however, he or she may still only draw cards when a town or castle. A bounty hunter can work 2 bounties at once, which is nice, right? So that means you can actually be working 2 bounties. Maybe somebody is, you know, you think they're going to be quick to pick up, and you want to have another bounty that you're working in the meantime, because you can maybe do a sighting at one and then actually nab somebody at another. It says you can work for up to 1 month or 30 days. That's huge, instead of the 2 weeks. So regular people only have 2 weeks. A real bounty hunter, you have up to a month or 30 days to work the bounty before you have to have them located. Right? And that is huge because, again, as I explained, locating or capturing them, it stops the clock. And this is basically meaning a town or castle knows if a real bounty hunter is working a bounty, he's probably going to get his man, he or she is. So they're not as concerned with just regular run-of-the-mill hokey-dokes running around working bounties and then having to pay them, you know, for them whatever. So they only give regular people 2 weeks. Bounty hunters get up to a month. Bounty hunters have been known to find fugitives in locations where they were not known to be hiding. That's interesting. To reflect this, whenever a bounty hunter has an encounter, as they are entering or leaving a location where a fugitive was last seen or had other sightings, before drawing their encounter card, they can make a bounty hunter skill check. If they pass, instead of the encounter they pulled, they have located that fugitive. Now this is interesting. What this basically means is, if say you're entering a town or castle, and you know, let's say Boris LeMay was last seen in that town, and you go to enter it, and you roll for your encounter, and you have an encounter as you're entering the town. If you make a bounty hunter skill check and pass it, that's actually Boris LeMay that you just encountered. So you found him, even though you might have been heading to another town because there was a last sighting of him there, but now you actually found him here. And here's an example. Kalar is a 67% bounty hunter. He is on his way to Milestone to look for Boris LeMay, where he was last seen. As he enters Milestone, he rolls and has an encounter. Before pulling the encounter card, he decides to see if it is Boris. He makes his skill check and rolls an 80. He fails to roll and it was not Boris. He now draws the encounter card and resolves the encounter. Kalar searches for Boris the next day but does not locate him. The day after that, he leaves and has an encounter as he is leaving the town. He cannot check to see if it is Boris this time because he has already rolled for that location once. However, if he goes to look for him at Zafton and has an encounter entering or leaving that town, he could choose to use his bounty hunter skill again and see if it is Boris. So that just explains how you can use it and how many times. Now, the other aspect about being bounty hunter is you gain fame. Right? And this is kind of a new thing, part of the supplement. Bounty hunters gain fame for every fugitive they collect a bounty hunter on. They earn 5 fame points for every level of the fugitive returned. If a bounty hunter loses a fugitive after capturing them, they lose 10 fame points regardless of level. Wow. A bounty hunter's fame points can never fall below 0. If a bounty hunter loses a bounty because he has failed to locate the bounty in time, he loses 5 fame points. So your fame as a bounty hunter rests on how successful you are with capturing and bringing in fugitives. That's the most simplest way to put it. Now, this is what you can spend your fame points on. So you may spend 5 points to increase the result of any die roll when working a bounty, including rolls on the fugitive reaction table. That's kind of sweet. Meaning if you're more famous as a bounty hunter, these guys are probably more likely to turn themselves in when they know you're on their tail. So you get to kind of modify your roll. Says he may spend 5 points to increase his bounty hunter's skill score by 1%. He may spend as many points as he wishes, but may only increase it by 20. So that's good. You can boost up your skill score, which is essential as a bounty hunter. May spend 5 points to increase the bounty paid for a fugitive, which is again good. So, as a more experienced bounty hunter, you should be able to command a higher price for these bounties. It says, a bounty hunter may spend 10 fame points to increase or decrease the result rolled on a seeking audience or news and information table by 5 points. So this is if you're this is kind of outside of bounty hunting, but because of your reputation, when you go seek an audience, people are going to be more likely to want to meet you. And he may spend 10 fame points to re-roll any result on the NPC reaction table. Only one. So again, on the NPC reaction table, if it says somebody attacks you, and then you want to use your fame, and you can re-roll that, and they say, well, oh, wait a minute, you're that bounty hunter. So maybe they won't attack you. Or vice versa, maybe somebody will join your party because they want to be associated with you. Alright, so this is an optional rule where you can put the bounty hunter cards into the regular encounter deck, and it kind of explains to you how that would work when you draw the cards. And basically what it says is when a bounty hunter card is drawn as an encounter, roll on the NPC reaction table. However, if the fugitive is wanted dead or alive, minus 10 from your roll to reflect their leeriness to trust you. If they are only wanted dead, then minus 20. If they are only wanted alive, then roll as normal. So basically, if you mix these guys into your regular deck, you don't want to be encountering them because they are going to be very hostile. These are men and women with a price on their head who are traveling through the land, and if you happen to randomly encounter them, it's not going to go well because they are not going to take any chance of waiting on you to attack them or recognize them. And so here's another summary of the bounty hunter skill and the attributes, and that kind of closes us out. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you guys, we're going to take a quick look at one of the bounty hunter cards, and then we'll wrap this up. Card up here, and I chose to go with Boris LeMay since we had mentioned him. And we're just going to go over kind of some of the basic elements on the card. So obviously you have their name here. This is if they have any alias. This is the level. So remember, for a bounty hunter, you get 5 fame. So you would get 10 fame points for capturing Boris LeMay. You have his statistics. This is if he has any skills. His equipment. He has a +8 short sword, does -H damage. This is his features. Large belly, bald head, heavy beard, and mustache. So I got a typo there. This is his search percentage. So when you're looking for him in a town, you'd have to roll 60% or less to find him. Here's the bounty. He's wanted dead for 300 gold pieces at King's Harbor. He's wanted alive. You can get 500 gold pieces at King's Castle. And that's something you will usually see, that they are worth more alive typically than dead. Obviously, when people want to bring somebody to justice, they want a chance to impute the justice themselves. So they usually will pay more. But at the same time, if they just want them caught, they'll just say, hey, bring them dead. So here he was last seen in Milesteel. And the way this works is you have to go to Milesteel first to look for him. You'd roll this 60%. If he's not there, you'd roll your other sighting. So you'd roll that D10, which again is a separate daily action. But let's just say you rolled a 7. That means he's been seen in Wooddam. And so that's where you would have to head, and you'd make a new search there in Wooddam. Then there's a little history. Boris used to be a feared constable in the town of Milesteel until he started taking too many bribes. He is said to have requested a bribe of a Bane knight, and when it wasn't paid, he and his cronies attacked the knight. All of his cronies were killed, but not before Boris got away. Now the king wants him to answer for his crimes. So this guy basically was a crooked constable in Milesteel. One of the king's knights came. Him and his constables roughed the knight up. Although most of them got killed, he ran, and now the king has put this bounty on him. So this is why you see that he's wanted in King's Castle and King's Harbor, not necessarily at Milesteel, which is where he actually committed the crime. Now here's some extra details. If you kill him, you can collect a bounty for Boris at any Bane fortress on the map. Now that's actually pretty cool, because normally you have to take them back to wherever one of these places are. So if you found him in Wooddam and you wanted to take him in alive, you'd have to take him to King's Castle. If you found him in Wooddam and wanted to take him somewhere dead, you take him to King's Harbor. But because of what he did to a knight, it says here you can take him to any one of the Bane fortresses. And that's like Warrior's Bane, Pirate's Bane, and they will pay whichever bounty applies. If you brought them there alive, they pay you 500. You brought them there dead, they pay you 3. So, and that's kind of Boris LeMay. This is like kind of one of the prototype cards, but I just wanted to give you guys a look at it and let you check that out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Bounty Hunter supplement. Like I said, I want to add this as a stretch goal. If the campaign doesn't get to kind of the level I have in mind, then I will try to make this available as a separate add-on, kind of an add-on either at the end of the campaign or in the backer kit or pledge manager. Thanks a lot, everybody. God bless.